scheduled time of Saturdays at 10 a.m. if you are tuning in live. If you are watching me on the playback, you don't really care about where we're tuning in from right now, and that's totally fine with me. Thank you for your patience as always. As you do know, I often speak to those that are right here with me. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to grab yourself a moment to engage and exchange with like minded, loving, elevating individuals. I am very, very grateful for you all of the time. Thank you for the rates and the reviews. Thank you for the tuning in. You guys' participation and your like, share, and subscribing has been phenomenal. The channel has been growing. The moment has been turning into a movement, and I'm just ecstatic about it. It is my very, very, very much my desire, my goal to grow the moment to a global moment. Okay, Ashe? A global moment to where many, many people can grab a moment, grab a time for inspiration, a time for growth, a time for reflection, a time for gathering and getting. And I really, really want that to be accessible to everyone. So thank you for making that such a possibility and such a beautiful, beautiful platform right here on YouTube. So thank you all so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you live in the DMV area, I live here in Baltimore City for right now. I am, we'll see, to be, what does it say, to be announced or coming soon to be relocating. But for right now, I'm still here in the city, and I am. We're having a rainy day. If you live in the DMV area, it is pretty gray. It is pretty wet. So when you could be cuddled up in your PJs and a comforter, watching something that takes your mind off of anything, you chose to be here today to get a moment to do some work with yourself and with others. And I am just so proud of you, and I want to give you a great big kudos for that. We are in a reflection series. We are looking back at it. We are Sankofing our journey. We are going into our very specific, very raw, very real journeys of self in order to heal and grow to the next level. We've been in a reflection series for, I think this is our 22nd week. We're in a 33-week series right now. And boy, have we been moving and grooving, right? Growing and knowing, showing and glowing. We are in today's episode. Let's get to that part. Today's episode is entitled Reflecting on the Tiny Talk. And this very much is about the inner child. This is about what's going on inside of us. And this show means, or this episode, every episode really means a lot to me. It does come from a great deal of research, experience, internal dialogue, growth, and it comes from a lot of places. So they all mean a lot to me. But there is the rare and occasional show where it almost didn't happen because of how real and raw and close to home and heart it is. And this is one of those shows. I've had a crazy week. And my week has had a lot to do with mothering and my motherhood. A lot of my turmoils have come from my motherhood this week and my grandmotherhood, which is still motherhood, right? It has come from my legacying. Whoo! I've been legacying this week, and I was really moved to let's go into that. I had a really great conversation with a good girlfriend, shout out to Day Day, and we talked about some of the struggles and some of the challenges of my week in mothering, because I've had some. I mean, my daughter, my extended daughters, which are the mother of my granddaughter, and my worries and my concerns for her life and her stability and the things that are going. I mean, there's just, listen, I go on and on. But just the concerns and the going through of all of the circumstances have put me in a place of being overwhelmed to a degree. And the overwhelmingness comes from wanting to make sure that these young women, that the women of my lineage, right, that the wombs of my story, that the wombs of my ancestors, and the wombs that are connected to all that I am, making sure that we are processing pain and challenge and hardship and growth in very healthy and fundamental ways. And that is very challenging. until you are like battling with those that came from you, you don't really realize how much is coming from you. You don't really realize how much you're actually going through until you see externally kind of the things that you're building and creating and what they're going through. And you get to see your chapters. I say this all the time. Every child is a chapter of your story. Every child I've had is that was born is a replica in personality and behavior, in I guess weaknesses and challenges or strengths of my exact chapter of where I was when they got pregnant. And so, I mean, not when they got pregnant, when I got pregnant with them. And so, having 5 children over the past 20 years, you would imagine that there are many chapters of myself growing, unfolding, blossoming, and learning. Quiet chapters, a lesson from every chapter, scared chapters, fearless chapters, promising chapters, challenging chapters. Listen, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And each one represents that. So until you have to go into that, and there's one thing to go into it from my experience. There's one thing to go into it with my male children. I raised them. The perspective with them is very different. But then when it comes to the females, and this week has been specifically heavy on the female energy of my lineage. Whoo, chawu, the work that I've had to do this week, I'm quite exhausted. I am quite exhausted today. But I just was really big on like, let's share, let's grow, let's learn together, let's expand together. When I am in a reflection series in my Moment of Harmony, and this week I have probably reflected on my past and my childhood and my womanhood probably more than I've reflected in the past couple of years. And everyone know that I've definitely been in a shaking season, a rebuilding season, a rebirthing season over the past couple of years. So there's been a lot of reflecting. But I'm saying that in this week alone, as far as reflecting on myself, my childhood, my journey, her on the inside. So I was letting you all know I was speaking to a good girlfriend about all that I've been delving through, a good sister friend. And she said she also has a daughter now herself. And she was talking about the growth and expansion that has happened in just the 3 years of her daughtering or mothering a daughter, and how different that is. And I know that there's a lot of kings and brothers and babas that tune into a Moment of Harmony. You are loved and appreciated. I don't at all want you to feel excluded from this conversation. I want you to also really think about your connection to the masculine energy in your lineage, as well as with the women in your life that you love and that you are nurturing and that you are protecting, are experiencing as they are to grow and to grow other wombs themselves. So, sidebar. Okay, so back. She was saying, what I found when she brought it was like, it's so difficult because you have to raise them while still nurturing the little girl inside of you. And it was just so profound to me. It was the shift of perspective I needed in my week for all of the, oh my God, what is happening? And how do I get through this matriarch style? That's a lot of pressure. How do I keep poise and grace and wisdom when there's some people around me that's obviously lost their mind and testing my gangster? Okay. But my thing was just like, wow, this was the perspective shift that I needed. Thank you, Creator. Thank you for sending your message. And I am just so honored to expound upon that message today in today's reflection series entitled Reflect on Your Tiny Talk. Essentially, we are raising, and those of us that aren't parents biologically do know that I am talking about raising, whether it is a biological child or an actual child, or raising the consciousness and raising the morality of our society. This also is very relevant to your growth and development, because essentially what we were talking about is that we're not raising anything if we're not raised. We haven't raised anything if we aren't raised. And I'm not saying that I wasn't raised. I was very much raised. Shout out, big ups to every person, every grandparent, every aunt, uncle, cousin, family friend, parent, everyone that was definitely very hands-on, regardless of whether or not they were broken or in or out of their trauma, hands-on with raising and protecting and providing for me. I was raised. Give thanks. I don't say that lightly. As a matter of fact, I'm getting a little bit emotional. I don't say that lightly, and I don't say it braggingly. I say it enlightened. I say it experienced in the world of people and broken hearts. And I say it proudly. I was raised. Give thanks. Maya Angelou, who is one of my favorite philosophers, if you would put her in that category, but she's one of my favorite mamas of all time. She said that when she left the home as a young mother, a teen mother, her mother told her for point blank, and you've probably heard me say this before in a moment because you know I love my quotes and my memories. Her mother told her, when you leave this house, remember that you've been raised. You've been raised. Meaning, don't go out here and act like you don't know who you are, whose you are. You don't know how to behave or how to be. You don't let anyone else tell you about what you can and can't accomplish. You've been raised. So I don't want to at all imply that I have not been raised. I am very grateful and humble and bow down to the beauty of the blessings of those that raised the village that raised moi, yours truly. What I am saying is that all of us that are on a healing journey have a hurt child inside of us. Whether the hurt is neglect or violation or abuse or what does it say, oppression, whatever it is, a combination of all. We all have a little child inside of us from our most vulnerable stages in life that is growing inside of us that we may have not tended to the growth of once we grew up. And I'm saying that where we are now, where I am now, I am focused on her. My children, my extended children, my grandchild, and those grandchildren that will come. Cause child, we are a nation building family. I already know it's gonna be like that. What I'm saying is, in the conversation and in light of the week, I realized like you can't raise anyone without raising first yourself. So I have to finish raising wherever there was a stunt in growth, wherever there was a stunt in development, wherever there was a stunt in flourishing. I have to go back, Sankofa. I have to go back and get. I have to go back and restore. When we are in our reflection series, it is about just that. It is about going back, not out of anger, not out of revenge, not out of frustration, not out of blame, but going back in restoration. I am reflecting in order to restore. And that is a different avenue to take back through your path. That is a different route rather than the backwoods of your history. It is a clearer route. It is a purposeful route. And it'll be a route that produces peace. It will be a route that produces so much more of a result. So that is where we are. That is why we are doing what we are doing. We are going back. We are going back. And so today is about the tiny talk, the conversations that's needed for us to have with ourselves in order for us to raise him or her, in order for us to get to the highest place of him or her now. Thank you all. I see people in the chat. Thank you all for joining in and chatting in and giving your energy. It is loved and appreciated. I am grateful for all of those moment exchangers. I hope that you get something that you came here for. Thank you. So when I say raising the child in you in order to get to the highest of you, that's what all of today is about. Raising the child in you in order to get to the highest of you. We are going back in a very intentional way. So I don't know if everyone was familiar with, Jeezy did an interview at the end of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. It was the end of 2023. Jeezy did a interview with Nia Long. I actually really appreciated the interview. I found it to be very refreshing, very healing, very honest, and very deep. But a great part of what Jeezy was talking about was in his marriage, how much healing of himself he had to do. Again, we're talking about growing something that in turn grows you. So at the beginning of this conversation, I talked a great deal about parenthood. But we're also talking in this case, like I said, it doesn't have to be about you having a child. It doesn't have to be about you being a parent. It's at all, anytime you are expected to grow something out of yourself, you are going to first be expected to go and grow inside of yourself. And many of us, when we grow or go inside of ourselves, it starts at that little person inside of ourselves. And so that's why today's episode is entitled Reflect on Your Tiny Talk. Reflect on the conversations that you're having with little Harmony, with little you, with teenage you, with lost you, with questioning you, with confused you, with vulnerable you, with needing you. Have that conversation with yourself in a very real, authentic, loving way in order to get the growth that you are looking for in your day to day. Ashe. So I would first say here, when Jeezy had the conversation, Jeezy said, one of the greatest things he did in journeying through his marriage before he got to the divorce, or even getting himself to understanding that it was time for him to have a divorce, was that he had a vision or a dream or an interaction with himself of some sort, and he was a child. And that he went into a home where he was sitting in it as a child on the carpet, I think playing a game or something like that. And and his little self was sad. And when he talked to his little self had said something to him to the nature of he's alone or he's scared or something. I am paraphrasing all on this interview, but what I am certain of was that in Jeezy's healing process, what he talked about was having an interaction with the child in him, embracing and loving and focusing in on that child before he could come out and make the appropriate decisions as the adult, before he could come out and have the accurate perspective as the adult. And I'm saying, I have gone through that all week. And I would love for us to journey through such an experience, to have the tools and the information behind being able to do such a thing. Okay, so today's episode, again, for all those that are just jumping on, I'm seeing many jump on, is entitled Reflect on the Tiny Talk. And it is about talking to and healing the inner child, or healing your inner child in order to get to your highest self now, right? Reflecting on tending to, your inner child for your highest high right now. So there are three sections we're going to do today when I talk about reflecting on the conversations you're having with yourself as you're going back through your healing journey. And the three parts are reflecting on your needs, reflecting on your bleeds, that's BLEEDS, and reflecting on your seeds, that's SEEDS. Needs, NEEDS, for anyone that I'm not articulating clear enough for. Needs, NEEDS, bleeds, BLEEDS, and seeds, SEEDS. Those are the three parts of today's dialogue that we're going to go through as we get into reflecting on our tiny talk, talking to the child, for the child in you to go and heal the highest in you, and essentially going out to heal the world altogether. If that is your goal, at the very least, heal anything that you touch or are connected to, right? Okay. Your needs. When I say reflect on the conversation that you're going to have with yourself, with your 6-year-old self, with your 8-year-old self, with your 17-year-old self, When you go back and have those types of dialogue, I want you to have that conversation from a place of your needs. This becomes very uncomfortable. Guys, I'm going to try so hard to not get emotional where I'm having this conversation, but it is so raw, close to home, close to heart for this week for me. So bear with me. But when it comes to your needs, even when I say my needs, it gives me a bit of anxiety. When it comes to the needs, when you've been someone who has been in any way deprived, neglected, ignored, mistreated, mishandled, you disassociate yourself from your needs because not having your needs met is so routinely or regularly a part of your life that it becomes traumatizing to even consider the needs. You don't believe that they'll be obtained. So when I say I'm going to go back to my childhood and I'm going to talk to little Harmony about what it is that she needs, it overwhelms me. It overwhelms me to be like, what do you need? Can you express that? Can you articulate that? Do you feel safe and comfortable saying what you need? Those I know myself feeling like, all right, I may need too much. I'm talking about for being denied, for being mishandled. You begin to feel the anxiety of, especially depending on what your issues are when you're going back into such a history. For myself, I have a great deal of abandonment and rejection issues that have been patternized throughout my I have that have been patternized throughout my adulthood because of course what it is that we're afraid of and what it is that we needed to grow in is going to continue to present itself until we face it and grow in it, until we face it and heal in it. So deal in it and heal in it, Ashe. So that fear of not having my needs met, the low vibrational mindset of feeling like my needs can't be met. Whether it is I don't think I'm worthy, whether it is I don't think someone else is capable, whether I don't think it's possible. When you are a child and you wrap your mind around that your needs are not important for whatever reason, you're part of a big family, you are for whatever not a prioritize you're not a priority in the eyes of your parents because of what it is that they're dealing with and growing through, whatever it is. Whenever you begin, sometimes it's just poverty. Poverty is a dramatic traumatizer. Please do not underestimate the trauma of poverty. Sometimes it's just not having your needs that causes you to disassociate yourself from them in a way that you are estranged from them. And going back into them in such a way to say, what do you need? Not what do you think is possible, not what do you think someone is willing to give, not what do you think you deserve, what do you think you're worthy of, but simply, clearly going and say, what do you need? Truthfully, transparently, unapologetically. That's the one. Right? That just made me feel hot. Unapologetically, what do you need? So when we go back to have that conversation with little self, we must answer that question. And when I talk, again, because we can't grow anything on the outside until we're fully grown on the inside, raising the internal self in order to raise external self. What is it that you need? What is it that you need today? I guarantee you they're actually mirroring each other. But let's say we want to get more specific, going into little self, tiny talk, little Harmony. What do you need? What do you need? And when I talk to her, she needs to feel important. She needs to be held. She needs to be loved. She needs to be paid attention to. She needs to be accepted for who she is. She needs to be tended. She needs love and understanding. She needs things expressed to her, explained to her. She needs understanding of what's happening. She needs a clear lens of what the expectations and standards are for herself and for everything around her. Right? This needs list can go on and on and on. But I just want to give you some examples of when you do have that very important and necessary and vital healing and growing conversation with yourself, that you say, little me, 10 me, 12 me. Not what anyone gave you, not why or why not you can't have it. Not what you did or didn't do, but just simply, what did you need? Tell me what you needed. I can't raise her without going there with her. I need a starting point. Harmony, what did you need? The picture that I put as my show or the thumbnail for this episode is a picture of me. I think I was about 5 or 6. But even when I was preparing for this episode, I was looking at her like that. The pumpkin, pooty poo. What did you need? You needed your father. That was so hard, right? And I can get to the point now in my healing where I can say things like that. But again, when we begin to disassociate ourselves from our needs due to trauma and due to trauma and due to pain, we stop having those conversations with ourselves. We numb those conversations with ourselves. We communicate in a way as if those things are not possible. And my thing is, whether or not it will happen, the need needs to be heard. The need needs to be acknowledged. Needs aren't dying because they aren't being met solely. That's part of it. Needs are dying because they aren't even being heard. Heard. I'm more upset about you not hearing something than I am about you not being able to do it. Not being able to do it is that's not really something you always can control. Your capacity, your capabilities, my capacity, my capabilities. But hearing, that's care, that's concern, that's consideration, that's love, it's present, it's mindfulness. That's something you could do if you wanted to do and you cared enough to put yourself in a position to do. Were you surrounded in an environment where that was not always the case? So hear the need. When you go back to have that conversation, baby, pumpkin, schnicky wook wook wook, what did you need? What did you need? I'm going to start there with you. You need it to be important? Because now I'm in a cycle in my life where I'm having to put myself as a primary priority. 38 years old. Where I'm having to put myself in the seat of the most important thing in my life. It is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. It is the scariest thing. And it is still so wobbly when I'm trying it out. But I am at a point where I understand you have to give her what she needs. She can't be important to anyone until you acknowledge why she ever wasn't important to you. In the way in that you put her and her needs first. And now you sitting up in here trying to put this, what did Lil Wayne said, sitting up in here trying to put this together. I'm sorry, y'all. I have a cat, and he is playing with me because he is not allowed on my bed, and he is trying to jump on my bed because he knows I'm on a live. Get off my bed. So sorry. Now, other than Mommy Mercy, I done got all the children together. Come on, cat. Get off. Come on. So sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't do the animals in the bed with me. So forgive that, Mommy Mercy. Now I done put the children in a place where they're all quiet, and now look at this. The animal wants to act up. Whoo, child, what energy would try to do? So, yes, put her in a place of importance. And I can work from there. Again, forgiveness, thank you. Mercy, mommy mercy. I can work from there when it comes to my healing journey. I can go into an old pattern of neglect because neglect was a part of what I'm dealing with, or my childhood, or what I'm used to, or what I've seen, or what I've been exposed to. I can go into a pattern of neglect, self-sacrifice, all of this. I can go into this, a martyring, if you will, to a degree. I'm not gonna say that extreme. Excuse me, so sorry, my throat. I can go into that space easily. It has become the pattern for 38 years almost. Or I can have that conversation with her, acknowledge and assess where it is I am in that conversation with her, and move forward in a healing direction. So, you need to be important. It's not about, well, what if and what I owe to someone else and how obligated I am through blood or through love or through connection. It's about you making choices now. This is my conversation with me now based on my conversation with her then. You must be important in order to go back and answer to her. I also saw recently J-Lo has a special, I want to call it. She has a special on Prime now. This Is Me Now. And she talks about heartbreak and the dysfunction around love and relationships that she learned throughout her life and her attachment styles and issues and things like that. But it's a musical. So don't nobody go up there thinking it's a documentary and be like, oh, my mom said J-Lo got this special. She did eventually turn it. I think she did turn it into a documentary at this point called The Greatest Love Story Ever Told or something like that. But what I saw initially was more of a musical. What is it called? Like a audio CD type of thing, visual album. That's what I'll say. More of a visual album. But in all of her journey of toxic behaviors and relationships, when she gets to a healed point, I don't want to give a spoil everything, but when she gets to understanding love and understanding why she's falling short or having the experiences she's having, it doesn't come until she has an encounter with her small self at like 8. And again, this child is angry and sad when she encounters her, like on a roof playing or something. And she asks the child, what's wrong? Look at you. Look how pretty you are. Why are you upset? And to something to that nature. And the little girl says, you never loved me. You loved everybody but me. Listen, y'all, I'm saying 2024, 'tis the season. 'Tis the season to go inside and find the reason. 'Tis the season to go inside and grow outside. Go inside and grow outside. After COVID, everybody was so happy. We're outside. We outside. We're outside. I'm saying go inside so we can grow outside. I would like to be able to say I'm grown outside. It's not just showing outside. I'm actually grown outside. I've gone inside and I've done the work to satisfy, heal, nurture her. So that where I'm stuck inside of me at 6, where I'm stuck inside of myself at 11, where I'm stuck inside of myself at 16, I am releasing myself to grow to the next level. I would like to come and unhinge you, Harmony, from this space inside of yourself. You've been waiting for someone else to come and do it. You've been waiting for the person that locked you up to come and unlock you. You've been waiting for Prince Charming to have a magical key and come and unlock you. But what I'm telling you is that you have to have a talk with your tiny self that only you can have with your tiny self. What do you need? Let me unlock you from here. Let me unlock you from this house we lived in 1992. Let me unlock you from this school you went to in 1996. Let me release you from this experience, this room that you're trapped in with this person in 2002. I am releasing you so that I can complete raising you so that you are raised on the outside. What do you need? After you go into the needs conversation with yourself, go into the bleeds conversation with yourself. Where are you bleeding? Where are you bleeding? Oh my gosh. Mommy mercy, guys. Mommy can hear that. Mommy mercy. When I went through this week, when I started down this journey of going inside to raise her in order to raise them, it was draining. I could barely, in seriously, not just emotionally, but physically, I felt like I needed a infusion, some type of, whether it was going to be some type of nutrients or some type of blood infusion. I was weak. I was weak, drained, truly drained. And I know that when I'm feeling drained, something is going on. I actually talked to my oldest son this week, and my granddaughter had an accident. She fell and she chipped her tooth at the beginning of the week. And he was so upset because he's far away and he can't get to her. And he was just like, Mom, please check. You know, he act like I'm not a G in the game, but check this, check that, check that. I'm letting him be a frantic parent because he has to do that. But I've already checked my granddaughter all the way over once she got to me. And I'm like, she is good. He said, no, Mom. I know she probably looks good on the inside, but if she chipped her tooth, she may have swallowed it. And I said, well, if she swallowed a chip of that tiny little baby tooth, then it's going to come out. Don't worry about it. He said, Mom, sometimes you can have internal bleeding that you don't know is happening. You only can just feel discomfort. He was overreacting about the situation. He was being a dad. I was proud of him. No worry. I appeased that whole little situation. But what he said resonated with me, theoretically, and what I was facing on my own terms and my own self in that week. You are sitting here trying to figure out why you feel away, why you feel drained, and nothing is wrong with you. Sometimes there can be internal bleeding that you don't know is happening. You just can feel not good. You can just feel like something isn't right. The bleeds. When you have that conversation with your younger self, when you go back to heal the child in order to get to your highest self, raise that child to your highest self, you must go and find out where the bleeding is happening. Where are you bleeding on the inside? Meaning talking to that child. On the outside, I'm grown AF. Living life, boss lady, hustling, taking care of business, juggling these finances, children and obligations. But I don't know if 8-year-old Harmony is bleeding somewhere. 13-year-old Harmony is bleeding somewhere. I feel drained. I feel tired. I feel defeated. I feel depleted, but I'm fine. Go and find the bleed. A Moment of Harmony has a reading circle called, what is our reading circle called? Unbroken. It's called Unbroken. You know, as in, let the reading circle be unbroken. Big shout outs to the mama. Mama Marimba Ani. We just spent on that a little bit. But it's a reading circle for women. And we just read stories. We read biographies. We read anything, really, on healing. On healing and growing and mending, specifically womanhood. And it's simple and it's quaint, but we are reading the book Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. Controversy aside, we don't get up into none of that. It's not gossipy and it's not celebrity at all. We are more heavy on the survival and the knowledge and the experience. And that's kind of where we end. In what we're reading, there is a point where the author speaks, she goes deeply into her childhood, which was also very ironic for this week. She goes deeply into the throes of her childhood, the journey of the people that made her who she is. Oh my gosh. Right up the alley. Right up the alley of what I'm dealing with. So there's a point where she says, when you search your heart for where it was broken. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something about when you search your heart for where it was fractured. Search your heart in a way, just make sure that you're intentional about searching your heart. But as I was reading, I had a visualization of literally being inside of a broken heart and searching it for the cracks in order to heal yourself, in order to rebuild yourself. And in my case, in order to feel yourself. When you search your heart. So when I was going into everything I was going into in preparation for this moment today, I wanted to go a step further, or a separate step, and say, when I search my childhood, I need to find out where I'm still bleeding from. I need to go into the open wounds. What is it? Because somewhere I'm leaking. I feel the depleting. Somewhere I'm leaking. And nothing highlights those places like your very own children. Trust me, all my moms out there, I know you know. Especially those of us that are vets, V's in the game. We got 20 years or more in the game. Child, nothing is puts the magnifier on what the heck you supposed to be doing. Like these people growing into their own people that came from you. So when I think about searching, like the book said, searching your heart, and myself, Sankofaing, going back over your childhood to find out where you're still bleeding. In a lot of ways, I'm still bleeding around my needs. I'm still bleeding around my relevance. I'm still bleeding around my importance. These are some examples of person true for me, but could be different for you. You could be bleeding around your chastity or your sacredness. You could be bleeding around your physical boundaries. I also experienced physical abuse as a child. And when you go through things like that, your worthiness, right? Where are you bleeding? When someone can physically hurt you and be okay with it. When someone could physically make you feel like you deserve to suffer in some way at their anger and rage. Literally a punching mat. Or a punching bag. And then as you grow into an adult and you find yourself as a doormat, more often than not, and you're punishing yourself now for being a doormat, for making those choices, people pleasing, self-sacrificing, and you're punishing yourself now. Why are you like this? Why do you let people do things that hurt you? Why do you allow people to have more space in your life than you do? And then you gotta go back and talk to little Harmony. Because she was a punching bag that allowed you to now be a doormat. Because she was told in so many arenas or in so many ways with the abuse, that she wasn't important. that she didn't deserve space, that she didn't deserve security, safety, stability, that it's not for her. I can't tell you how many times being a fatherless child. Goodness gracious, y'all. I'm just getting so vulnerable today. I can't tell you how much being a fatherless child that I felt like safety just wasn't for me. And that however safe I was going to be was going to come from me. That no one else could provide me safety. That no one else would be consistent with safety for me. So hard. I gotta go back and talk to her about that. Little Harmony, what Jadakiss said, I got something to discuss with you. We gotta go back. You bleeding there. You're still bleeding there. And until you bandage and heal up there, you'll always attract the people that are going to contribute to that injury. This has been my story. This has been my journey of love and relationship. I attract the wound inflictors because I have not tended to the wound. Like a shark to blood, I must stop bleeding. If I want the sharks to stop coming, I must stop bleeding. Go into your bleeds, your needs, your bleeds, and your seeds. We're going to get ready to close out with these seeds. Your seeds are what you are planting now. Your seeds go into the seeds of your childhood. Excuse me. What was endowed in you? What was instilled in you? What was placed in you? I am grateful that I did not have a full traumatic childhood, a fully horrific childhood. I think that there are many of us that have childhoods full of work. The foundation is flawed so many ways. But just like there were flawed foundations, or there were flaws in the foundation, there were gems. If you were blessed enough to have gems in your foundation, and I would go so far as to say that everyone has at least a couple. I don't think I say one. I would go so far that everyone has at least a couple that they can from 1 to 18 of gems. And I say that because I know that I don't serve a cruel creator. I don't believe that you do either. And I say that because the creator always shows grace and mercy on a growth challenge. When you are being challenged in your growth, there is all what they call a silver lining. And it can be a silver lining. And it can be some silver linings. It can be simple nuggets. Like a grandmother that has a conversation or many conversations. I mean, I can just go back and I can see the gems. When you go back and you talk to her or him, remind them of the gems. Ask them about their needs. Stop the bleeds. Remind them of the seeds. As I'm healing you, as I'm growing you, as I'm nurturing you, as I'm raising you so that I can be raised, let me remind you that you know who you are. Let me remind you that you know where you came from. Let me lift your head. Let me dust your knees. Let me place this band-aid. I'm saying wherever grace and mercy was present throughout your journey, you zero in on that Sankofa. You zero in on that as well. That person that brought you those clothes, that person that gave you that word of wisdom, that person that gave you that space of release, that person that you could be yourself, that energy, that environment, that circumstance, that thing you saw on TV, that thing you saw, that thing you read about. Wherever there was grace and mercy, You have some people, I know my mother was really big on anything that she was small on or short with. She was big on some really big stuff. She was big about loving ourselves. She was big about protecting and growing ourselves. She was big on loving who we are as a people. Seed. That was a seed that would grow. That was a seed that would grow. As there were things that would stunt, be ever present. Be ever acknowledging of that there are things that would grow. Things that would stunt, things that would grow. Go back and get those things too. Go back and get those things too. Go back and remember that, you know what? I've heard people say, they put us in the church. Look, my mother, she was on a religious search most of our childhood. She was like, she didn't have all the resources we have today about just being able to experiment and research via the web and via other people's experiences, via social media, via documentaries and YouTube. Listen, but my mother was a single mother raising 7 children. She had to find out for herself. And at the time, we thought that was chaotic. We going to the church, we going to the mosque, we going. She got us up in everything. We know about everything. And at the time, it was chaotic. Who are we? She's teaching us about all the black greats and black pride, and she's showing us to love ourselves. And then we also are venturing and still on a search. Now, at the time it was like, bro, what are we doing? We eat meat, we don't eat meat. We do this, we don't do this. No Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble is okay. It's. But look at me now. Who would have thought that I would have the mission of being a healer of the world and the universe? I don't know that she knew that when she was on the journey she was taking me on. I don't know. I never asked her that. But what I do know is that I can heal a world that I know. Because I know the world, I can heal the world. Because I know pain, I can absolve pain, I can identify pain. Because I know love, I can give love, I can show love, I can use love for my mission. The gems. Know that when you have the conversation, when you grow back and get, I'm going to get a little spin on the Sankofa, trick it. When you grow back and get, know that your gems, your seeds that were planted correctly in the right season, at the right place, at the right time, are imperative to your healing and your growth of today. There are a lot of things I do not know as I venture on a new journey. But one thing, or the things that I do keep in my backpack, are the things I already am certain of. These are my weapons. These are my tools. They are vital for my growth and my healing and my development. Talk to her. Talk to him. Raise her or him so you can raise them. Raise you so you can raise out. Raise in so you can raise out. Talk about the needs, truly. Talk about the bleeds, heal them. Talk about the seeds, revere them. I love you all so very much. Thank you for joining me for another moment of harmony. I look forward to having another moment with you next week. Y'all, take really good care of yourselves. Listen, Linda. Take really good care of yourselves. And absolutely, if you are ever so blessed and honored and get the opportunity to, please do take care of someone else as well. I love y'all. Y'all have a healing week. And I will see you next week for another moment of harmony.